Good evening, everybody. I hope everybody is well. All right. Well, it was a warm one today. Bit breezy, but warm. As you can see, I have my November hunting beard going. This is about a week and a half, week and 3/4 of no shaving. So, but if you have me on Facebook, you will have seen that I shot a pretty nice deer on, man, I don't remember what day it was now. Days are all flying by. Monday or Tuesday morning. I'm not sure which day it was. I was able to shoot a nice deer over at my property that I have, so that's pretty cool. So I took it to the processor today to have some stuff done to it, so we'll have venison for the winter, so that'll be good. My family loves that. Well, hopefully you all are doing good. I have normally I can remember the prayer requests that we have that we need to pray for. I can just normally remember them off the top of my head. We have so many right now, just in Westside, just our Westside family, that I actually sat down a few minutes ago and made notes because we have so many prayer requests that we want to make sure that we mention and cover. So if you have one, feel free to put it on Facebook, and when I get done doing the devotional for tonight, I'll go back like we always do and check Facebook to make sure that what I have on my list is, if you guys have anything that's not on my list, kind of thing. So so that's what we're going to do. We're actually going to do a little bit different tonight. Usually we do a devotional that Ed and Tim and I have, and we each do one, each night, and I always have Thursday nights. Tonight I'm going to vary off of that some. I just felt like, honestly, God wanted me to do something different, and I don't say that very often, and I don't try to super spiritualize things very often, but as I was going through the devotional for tonight, writing down all the prayer requests and talking and texting back and forth with Ed, something popped in my head, and I just thought it was worthy enough that it must be worth something or for something, and so that's what I'm going to share tonight. So we're going to vary off our devotional a little bit, do something a little different, so hopefully you're cool with that. Hopefully it'll have some value for somebody, for all of us, hopefully. So we're going to do a little different tonight, but hopefully it'll still be good, and it'll be worthwhile either way. So that's what we're going to do. I'll wait another minute or so, and then we'll jump into it. I cannot stop yawning. I've been waking up at 5 o'clock or 5:30 every morning to go out hunting, and then working all day. That's starting to catch up to me. As my wife reminds me, I'm not in my 20s anymore. I can't do all the stuff I used to be able to do, and I can still do it. I just feel it a lot more. So, which is fine, whatever. As long as I can still do it, I'm thankful. So, all right, it's 8:05. Let's jump into the devotional stuff, and we'll see what I can share with you guys. We can pull out of it, and we'll spend about 15 minutes on it, and then we'll pray and get out of here, okay? So like I said, the devotional for tonight is going to be a little bit different. It really came from, I was reading through the devotionals for tonight and the next few nights, just trying to get some context for what he was talking about. And he just started sharing some stuff, and then in light of all the things that are going on in our country, in our church, and with our people, and COVID and all those things. I just thought maybe this was good, and actually it ties in with the sermons that Ed's been doing the last couple of weeks. It stems kind of out of that Philippians chapter 4, and the whole kind of the idea of the attitude of gratitude is thankfulness. When I read that passage and I start talking about it, you'll see that it will just probably jump out at you. But when Tozer was talking about the devotionals for Thursday, Friday, and Saturday, it was just bang, 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 and it was just talking about the Spirit illuminating things and allowing the Spirit to kind of through prayer and petition and those things, kind of guide your mind and guide your heart and all those different things. And it just took me back to, so when I first, I'm trying to think of how old I was. 30, I'll say 33, 34. So about 12 years ago, in that area somewhere, when I kind of first got serious about my faith. And it was in a season of my life where I was really struggling with job and money and stress and anxiety and materialism and prideful attitude and ego and all those things. I was riddled with anxiety. And my mom, in all of her wisdom, shared with me a verse. And it's the first verse I memorized when I got serious about my faith. Like not one of the kids, in Sunday school, how you memorize John 3:16 or whatever those. This was kind of one of the first verses that I memorized as an adult, that was meaningful to me and that had value to me. And then I gleaned some truth and I gleaned some peace from it. And so for whatever reason, I just feel like God asked me to share it with you guys tonight and kind of go through it a little bit and just see if there's some truth in there that we can pull out of it, that we can pull some peace and some understanding and some things out of it. That we can use in our lives right now. Because the more people, for my job, I go and I go and I go. I see lots of people every day pretty much. In no other time in my life, like right now, people are riddled with stress and anxiety and fear and all of those things. And this verse, I just keep coming back to this verse. So I just wanted to share this section with you guys and a couple of truths that I've kind of gleaned out of it and pulled out of it in my life. And just see what you think. So it's Philippians chapter 4, starting in verse 4. And I'm going to read it in the NIV, and that's how I memorized it. And then I'm also going to read it to you out of the Message. And I don't use the Message a lot for a lot of things, but I love the wording of it, and I love the flow of it. So I'm going to read it out of the NIV first, and then I'm going to read it again out of the Message and then kind of talk through it or talk about it a little bit. So it says, in the NIV, it says, "Rejoice in the Lord always. I will say it again, rejoice. Let your gentleness be evident to all. The Lord is near." And this is the part where I really started to kind of hone in on to memorize, back in that day. It says, "Do not be anxious about anything, but in every situation by prayer and petition, with thanksgiving," that was the tough part, "with thanksgiving, present your request to God, and the peace of God, which transcends all understanding, will guard your hearts and your minds in Christ Jesus. Finally, brothers and sisters, whatever is true, whatever is noble, whatever is right, whatever is pure, whatever is lovely, whatever is admirable, if anything is excellent or praiseworthy, think about these such things. Whatever you have learned or received or heard from me or seen in me, put it into practice, and the God of peace will be with you." So at the end of that, there's kind of two parts or two things. It says, think about such things. So that's kind of the first part. And the second part, he talks about put into practice. And if you do those two things, if you think about such things, and then you put into practice such things, And then it says, and the God of peace will be with you. And in my study Bible, I was reading through the notes and I found this and I thought this was awesome. It says, anxiety and prayer are two great opposing forces in the Christian experience. So on one side, you have anxiety, right? And on the other side, you have prayer. And it talks about, you just paint that visual, like these two great opposing forces, right? Anxiety and prayer. And just two opposing forces constantly in opposition of each other. And then a little bit down there, underneath there, it says, Paul understood the influence that one's thoughts has on one's life. What people allow to occupy their minds will sooner or later determine their speech and their action. He's painting this picture of anxiety on this side and prayer on this side. And what we allow to constantly be filtering through our minds, what we allow to constantly be thinking on and stewing on, in my case, that's it. I'm just constantly stewing on the same thing over and over and over. And as I do that, I feel my anxiety level build and build and build. And when I sense that, when I feel that, I run right back to this section of verses. And I try to remind myself of the truth that Paul's talking about here. And if you've ever did a study on Paul, you'll know in this section and in Philippians where he's writing this, he's in prison. So he's actually in prison being held. So it's not like he's in a section of life where he's full of ease and comfort and he's just chilling and hanging out. He's right in the mix. He's right in the thick of it. And he still has a wherewithal. He still has the self-awareness and the God-awareness to pen this, to write this to the Philippian church and to let them know, this is how a Christian should live. This is the idea. This is the thing to follow, right? So I just love that picture of anxiety being over here and prayer being over here. And these are the two great opposing forces. And that prayer, like it says at the end, and put into practice, and the God of peace will be with you. Prayer will overcome that anxiety. Prayer is the most powerful of the two opposing forces. And so I want to read it to you out of the Message again. And I love the wording of this, and it just kind of brings me back to my life or our lives and the everyday. It's kind of more just a real good wording for like the everyday kind of thing. It says, celebrate God all day, every day. I mean, revel in Him. Make it as clear as you can to all that you meet that you're on their side, working with them and not against them. Man, that's a good word for today, isn't it? I think Ed talked about a couple days ago about how Christians should act and how Christians should not act. And I don't remember exactly the wording I think it was Monday. I don't remember exactly the wording that he used, but basically painted the picture of don't be a Christian jerk. Act in such a way and talk in such a way that it's clear to people that you're on their side, that you're for them. And the reason that you are for them and that you are on their side is because you're a Christian. And in the Christian walk, that's how we should be. That's what we should do. And so that's not always easy to do. It's not easy for me. Sometimes Facebook gets me in trouble and I have to apologize or I just have to walk away. So it's not easy to do. But it says, celebrate God all day, every day, and I mean really revel in Him. Make it as clear as you can to all that you meet that you're on their side, working with them and not against them. Help them see that the Master is about to arrive. He could show up any minute. It says, don't fret or worry. Instead of worrying, pray. All right? Don't fret or worry. Instead of worrying, pray. Super simple, super straight to the point, right? Let petitions and praises shape your worries into prayers, letting God know your concerns. Before you know it, a sense of God's wholeness, everything coming together for good, will come and settle down on you. It's wonderful what happens when Christ displaces worry at the center of your life. So it's that picture of those two opposing forces, right? As prayer and petition goes up, God comes in, and God's the more powerful force, and God actually just pushes away and dispels that anxiety, that worry, and that fear that we're allowing to just take hold of us. It says, wonderful what happens when Christ displaces worry at the center of your life. He says, summing it all up, friends, I'll say you do best by filling your minds and meditating on things that are true, that are noble, that are reputable, that are authentic, that are compelling, and that are gracious. The best, not the worst. The beautiful, not the ugly. Things to praise, not things to curse. Put into practice what you learned from me, what you heard and saw and realized. Do that, he says, do that, and God, who makes everything work together, will work you into his most excellent harmonies. Isn't that great wording? I love that. And God, who makes everything work together, will work you into his most excellent harmonies. That's just a great verbal picture to me of how it can be when we decide to let God be God and rest on the sovereignty of God and the power of God and the peace of God, and stop allowing the stress and the worries and the troubles of the world get at us. And so I guess that's really what I wanted to say more than anything tonight is, whenever I feel, you can feel the tension build, you can feel the anxiety build. Philippians 4, chapter 4 is a great resource to go to and just do a deep dive into that and just let that kind of take you over. And just kind of recenter yourself on that. I said it's been a crazy couple of days. My prayer request sheet is quite long, and as I've been out and about this week trying to be careful and wearing my mask and all of those things, it's becoming more and more evident to me that people are starting to really become afraid and really be riddled with stress and anxiety and fear. The holidays automatically bring a certain amount of that. And we have all the craziness of the election going on. We have the craziness of COVID, and the kids just got sent home from school, and they're all virtual again. And there are so many things to be filled with stress about. There are so many things to have anxiety over, right? Like, these are real things going on in our world. Like, our world, I say this all the time, but our world is a craziness, as crazy as it's ever been, it feels like, in my time anyway. And so just as we start heading in towards the holiday season, I just to give you guys a reminder that gratitude does have an attitude, and it is Thanksgiving, and we can be there in that spot if we take Philippians 4 and make it our own. If we take Philippians 4 and we internalize it and we make it a reality for ourselves. It's not easy to do. It's not easy to give up control, right? I know better than anybody. I am a control junkie in a lot of things. It's not easy for me to give up control and to do what it says, talking about prayer and petition, and just kind of lay it at God's feet and just trust that he's good and he's graceful and he's sovereign and he's the most powerful thing there is, and that he'll take care of it. But that's exactly the truth of the situation. And so the times in my life where I've struggled, I've tried to do it on my own. And the times in my life where I've been content and I've had peace and I've just allowed things to come to me and go through me is when I've just given them to God, and I've let God be God, and I just let Jason be Jason, and things just work out so much better for me. So I don't know, hopefully you got something out of that, guys. I love Philippians 4. I just always remember standing in my entranceway of my house, looking out the front door and talking to my mom, and I was so stressed. And like moms do sometimes, she just dropped this pearl of wisdom on me I hung up the phone with her, and I went and picked up my Bible, and I read that verse, and it was amazing. It was amazing. And for days, I just kept reading that verse until I memorized it. And it's foundational for me in my faith, and it changed my life. Honestly, it did. 4 or 5 verses, but it honestly changed how I look at things and how I process things, and it's foundational in my faith. It honestly is. So it's a good one. It's a good one for sure. So for whatever reason, I just felt like I wanted to share that with you guys tonight. So hopefully you got something out of it. So I'm going to pray real quick. Let me go back to Facebook and see if there's any other prayer requests more than what I have on here, and then we'll pray and get out of here. So. The prayer request that I have, now I'm not going to be able to get back to where I want to get back to. All right, I made it back to Facebook. All right, let's see. I think. Okay, I don't see anything else on here that is more than my list. So let me give you my list, and then we'll pray, and then we'll get out of here. So just a little while ago today, many of you probably don't know this, but Haley Typelis and Kendall Typelis both tested positive for COVID. So you guys can add them to your prayer list. I just found that out like an hour ago from Pastor Ed. So Haley and Kendall Typelis have now tested positive for COVID. We have several others in our church that have COVID, but for different situations. Didn't necessarily want us to mention their names right now. So just be praying for others in our church that have COVID. Donald Gwynn is still awaiting results from his COVID test. So he's not sure if he has it. I don't know how he's feeling or how he's doing. Lois Nickel, be praying for her. She has it. I did get an update from Ed on her, and she does feel like she's doing okay. She hasn't gotten any worse. She's kind of holding her own. Tony Nickel has it also, and it's kind of the same with her. Ron Emmerling, obviously he's had it for a while, and Ed told me today that he feels like each day he's getting a little better, a little stronger, so that's a praise and a prayer request still. Amy Juliet, be praying for her still. Leanne Willingham, be praying for her still. So if you're adding all those up, we have somewhere around 10 or 12 people in our church right now, in our church family, that are COVID positive. So it's getting real, and it's getting real quick, right? And so that's kind of what I was talking about earlier. As I travel for work and go to all the places and see all the people, there's a lot of people who thought COVID was just a whatever, and more and more people are starting to realize that COVID is a real deal and it's serious. And you can agree or disagree with all the politics of it and all that, and I'm not here to talk about that or argue about that. We know 10 or 12 people who are sick from it. So COVID is a thing, okay? And then, so then we have Cindy Volker. She has COVID, and she just sent me a Facebook message just before I came on tonight and said that she's feeling better. Each day is better. She's just kind of fighting the fatigue and the yucks of it. Her daughter, Mariah, had foot surgery, and so I think she's doing pretty good, but be praying for her. She's on the recovery, on the mend from that. And then Maddie, the youngest daughter, she's up at Northwood playing basketball up there, going to college and playing basketball there. She hurt her hand, and she's going to have surgery on a tendon on her hand next Tuesday. And if you remember, she's just coming back from having COVID. She had to get quarantined up in the COVID hotel up in Northwood. So Maddie's had a rough first freshman semester away at school. So be praying for Maddie. She's a good kid, and but she's had a rough go of being away from home and being up at school and stuff. And then maybe the most urgent and the most needed one right now, and I say this one for last, Gary Nickel needs your guys' prayer in a big way. Pastor Ed had to rush Gary to the hospital this evening. He was not doing well. His oxygen levels were low, and he was not doing well. So Pastor Ed took him to the hospital this evening, and they took him back immediately. to get looked at and tended to. So be praying for Gary. He's in a tough spot, and he needs our prayers for sure. So I don't know tons of details, but I just know his oxygen level was low, and he was not looking good and not feeling good, and he had to get rushed to emergency at McLaren. So be praying for Gary. That is probably the most urgent, imminent prayer request. So, and then obviously I don't want to forget. I told you that we have prayer requests and prayer requests and prayer requests, but Melissa Marrero has a surgery coming up tomorrow morning, I think, early morning or late morning, early afternoon, something like that. So she has a surgery tomorrow also. So we're praying for her anxiety and stress level as she goes into the hospital to get a surgery done. So there is no shortage of prayer requests tonight and in our imminent future. So and then Alexis is still recovering from his shoulder surgery. So continue to be praying for Alexis. So I don't know. It's crazy, guys. It's absolutely crazy. So that's what. I don't know if that's some of what led me tonight to Philippians 4, as I was just sitting there and looking through and adding up the prayer requests, and just as my week keeps piling up, I feel like I just needed Philippians 4, so I don't know. All right, let's pray, and then we'll get out of here, and hopefully we'll have a good Friday and head into the weekend. So remember, before I pray, no in-person worship at Westside this Sunday. We'll be streaming online again like we was last week. We talked about it a little bit more today. We have no idea plans for getting back together in person. Like, it's 1 week at a time, 1 day at a time, honestly. So we tried to formulate some plans today for some stuff for December. We'll see. But you just know, this week for sure we're not meeting in person, and we don't know when we will. So all right, let's go to the Lord in prayer, and then we'll be out of here. Father, I thank you for your goodness, and I thank you for your grace. I thank you for the reality of Philippians 4, that we can take our stress and our anxiety, and through prayer and petition, we can give those things to you, and through your sovereignty and your power and your grace and your mercy, you overcome all those things, and you can give us that peace that surpasses all understanding, that we can just take a deep breath and exhale and just know that if it's gotten to us as a Christian, it's gone through you first. And you have a purpose for it, you have a plan for it, and you have a will for it. And that you see us and you know us and you love us and you are with us and you are for us, and that we're going to be okay. God, I just pray that you would be with all of our folks who are battling COVID. I just pray that you would be with them, that you would strengthen them, that you would just surround them, that they would know that you are with them and you're for them right there where they're at. God, I pray you would be with Melissa. Tomorrow she has her surgery, that you would give her a peace and a calmness, that she would know that you're there with her. God, that you have it under control, you know the situation, and you got her. God, I just pray that you would be with all the Volkers as they've had a rough fall. God, I'm just thankful that you brought them to Westside, honestly. I was thinking about that the other day, about all the workings and all that, how they got here. And God, I'm just thankful that you brought them back to Westside to us, and that we can love on them and pray with them and pray for them and all those things. God, they're such a blessing to us. I just pray that we could be a blessing to them. God, I pray that you would be with Gary Nickel. God, I'm just burdened for Gary. I'm just, after Pastor Ed's call, I'm just nervous, I guess, to be honest. God, I just pray that you'd be with him as he's there in the hospital right now in this moment, that you would strengthen him, that you would be with him, that you would love on him and take care of him, God. I just pray that while he's there by himself, that he wouldn't be there by himself, that he would have you right there in that bed with him, God, that you would strengthen him and you would comfort him. God, I pray all these things in your Son Jesus' mighty, mighty name. In Jesus' name I pray. Amen. All right, guys. I love you. God bless you. We'll see you online Sunday morning, 10:45. All right? If you need anything, 810-691-0383. Call me, text me, whatever. Call, text Pastor Ed. We'll do whatever we can for you. All right? We love you. God bless. Good.